Imagine that we give her a pass on the Diana video. So pretend that we decide we're not going to make a mountain out of a molehill on that one. Okay, pretend we just let that go. Are we supposed to let go the fact that she is laughing at this model who fell down during the runway show? Here she is laughing at this person falling, then looking to the person beside her and realizing, oh, we don't do that here. We don't just mock people who are in a very embarrassing situation. And she quickly sorts her features. Okay, I don't know how to get past that. Hello, how are you? Welcome to my channel. My name is Cheer Denise. We have a Friday news roundup for you that I think you are going to delight in. Let me just say we're going to be real heavy on the Meghan content today. So if Meghan is not your thing and you're like, not again, scroll past or fast forward. You know, we are going to talk about other things later in the video. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about today, but we do have to cover so very many Meghan stories. The first thing that I want to talk about is not the Meghan in Paris yet. We'll get there. But on the timeline of things we need to cover, at the very beginning of September, there were stories coming out that were some real jaw droppers to me. I had not really heard this story in its fullness like this. And I really want to ask you guys, how much do you believe this is true? Just because I'm having a hard time finding a source that I think is reputable. There's a lot of people telling this story in various YouTube videos, but they're all AI generated videos. And there's a whole plethora of videos on YouTube that are just AI made that go after Meghan. It's like a whole bot farm. And all of these videos follow the same script, not word for word. All the points are the same. The way they tell the story is the same. It's plagiarized off of each other. It's literally like, here's a script. I'm going to plug it into ChatGPT and ask them to give me the same thing, but like with different words. So it's all the same thing over and over and over again. And they're the ones I continually see. But there are a few people, like I think Popcorn Planet had brought this story around September 11th, and he was reading a headline and discussing it. So I do think that there are people who've been talking about the story, but we haven't talked about it. And I just want to know, please sound off in the comments as we're talking, like, give me your opinion. I want to know, what do you guys think about the story? And the story is this. You guys know that Meghan, before there was any Harry and before there was any Canadian chef, she was married to Trevor Engelson. Trevor was a producer, and, you know, it would seem that she kind of used him for whatever connections he had in the Hollywood world. Meghan, I think, was way more Meghan with him than we've ever seen her to be. Like, they got married in the Caribbean and she's handing out bags of weed. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was kind of like in her wild era, I guess you would say. Just kind of doing whatever needed doing in order to get ahead. You know, she hadn't yet decided to put on this mantle of polished and serene and just a lady. You know, she really loves to push that narrative that she's polished, serene, and a lady, which, you know, it's a pretty cracked facade, but she loves to pretend that's who she is. But back when she was with Trevor, she's handing out bags of weed at her wedding, you know, and if you want more about that wedding, we talk about it in Revenge. Go back to that reading. Anyway, it did not end well. She began to climb up the ladder and she couldn't discard Trevor fast enough and literally sent her rings back to him in the mail. Like, couldn't even bother to get on a plane, hand it to him with any kind of decency or a modicum of kindness. So he got thrown in the trash bin of her life. You would think that after having been disposed of in such a horrendous manner, he might have a little bit of something to say, a bitter chip on his shoulder. But he has kept his silence. You know, he's just never wasted his time on complaining about her. Much to everybody's chagrin, including mine, because I have reached out to him like many other people and have wanted his take on things. Like, he knows who she is. Not only because he was married to the woman, but because he knew her when she was on the come up. And he knew her when she was in her scrappy phase, wanting to do whatever needed doing in order for her to get ahead. But I mean, of course, once she gets her job on Suits, she didn't need Trevor anymore, you know. And it's not like he was ever any big name in Hollywood either, you know. So there's only so much he could do for her. I've respected the fact that he's kept his silence, that he wasn't going to find himself in the media and find his name on your tongue because he was talking about Meghan. Like, he was going to continue to build his own career, and he didn't need a shot of fame because his name was associated with Meghan, which we all know he could have gotten it. But the thing is, if somebody has used and abused you, the only way to get past it is to not talk about them. You know, not constantly whine, not constantly complain, not constantly be a victim to their unkindness. Like, okay, she turned out to be a major bitch, but I got to keep going, and so he has. But it's recently been reported that he may be ready to tell his side of things. And there are rumors that he is going to write his own book. Now, we would love it, but this is the thing that people are really hoping he shares. And this is the story that was making the rounds. And I've heard things about this before, but not to this degree. The story is that Meghan, who we all know has lied about her age, and she's probably closer to 50 than she is to 44, that Meghan was actually born in 1975, and that she has a whole set of like mystery years, like what was Meghan doing? Officially, if you go by the birth certificate that is publicly available, she would have been 18 when this happened. But if you go by the records, like school records, employment records, and lots of other documentation, her age would have been more in her early 20s. So Meghan gets married to a guy in Las Vegas. His name is Joe Giuliano. And they get married, and supposedly she gets pregnant and they have a baby. She, even for a time, was living with his family in Chicago during some of these years that we just don't know where she was. Now, if you go by her official birth date on the official record, then she would have had like a gap year between high school and college, which no one knows what she was doing. She claims that she was traveling and getting to know herself, but other people say she was in Chicago living with Joe's family, having a daughter. But then suddenly that marriage is no more. She decides to have it annulled, which is pretty easy to do in Nevada. And everything about that marriage is put under wraps. She goes about her life. She goes to Northwestern. She does the life that we know. Then she meets Trevor, et cetera, et cetera. But the issue now is the child that she had back in 1995 supposedly has a child of her own. And that would make Meghan a grandmother. Shock upon shock. Now, this story is crazy to me because I feel like it'd be very hard to hide this and to get so many people to not tell what Meghan had been up to. Now, it's just hard for me to imagine that original husband Joe and his family in Chicago would have kept silent when little Meghan Markle rises to fame, marries a prince, joins the British royal family, and they all just decide to sit back and think, what a world. That's crazy. And then never say anything to anybody, except for all we can get are these like little side stories, side plots. Did you know? Trevor might say something. Trevor knows, all this. Trevor probably does know. I'd love for Trevor to talk. I don't know if Trevor ever had to sign an NDA, but what I do know is that their marriage is sealed and you can't really get a lot of information about their marriage. And it's weird to me that he's never talked. How could she get him to be quiet? The only thing I've ever thought was that he just wasn't going to deal with the drama. Like he just wasn't into it, so he wasn't going to talk about it. That's my only thought. But I can't imagine that she has managed that with everyone she's ever known. That they are just going to take the high road and just, I'm not going to talk about Meghan. I've got bigger things to do. There's not her. Obviously, her family is as bitter as can be against her. But what about all these other people? Why aren't they talking? So, I would in some ways love for the story to be true because I feel so much like Meghan really isn't who we know her to be at all. And it would make sense why she's always so cagey about her personal life. Why she truly does not have the ability to just interact with other people. Because if you've got secrets at this level, you cannot afford to let your guard down at any time. But Meghan is clunky. Meghan is a mess. Meghan can't do anything right. Everything she lays her hands to, crumbles to dust. I've never seen someone so unfortunate and yet so lucky at the same time. It was all going so well for her when she met Harry, and then literally everything just fell to pieces. I'm like, did you do some witchcraft and wizardry in order to attain Harry, and then it all turned on you, and now you're under the curse? I mean, that's wild. But you know what I'm saying? It's like, I've never seen somebody have such luck in life, and then suddenly they can't manage themselves anymore. It's weird to me. And if Meghan was such a mastermind, explain this to me, okay? Here we have Meghan trying to show off her canning skills, which she has led us to believe that she's such a nerd about canning. Do we recall from the Bloomberg episode? I'm such a nerd. I'm going to nerd out on you for a minute. Okay, there's lots of different chitter chatter about canning. And then we see this. Here she's holding the tongs upside down. The little silicone bands, those need to be gripping the top of the very slippery, steamy hot jars. Even if you never canned anything in all your born days, that would be obvious. But this is a person who's bragged about it. Wanted you to believe she was this huge canning nerd. You know, she's just over there making vats of jam day in and day out. You know, she knows all about it, nerds out on it, you know, goes to bed reading books about canning. You know, that's how she wants you to believe her to be, but she's not. It's hard for me to believe that the person using this canning tool in this way is the person who somehow managed to silence everyone in her past life. If I can't figure out how to hold this tool, I'm not going to be able to figure out how to keep your mouth shut. Well, I have kids all over the countryside who are now having kids of their own. How do I keep Joe's family silent, I ask you, when I cannot figure out how to hold this canning tool? It doesn't make sense, okay? But then the foolishness continues, okay? And that gets us into Paris. She makes this surprise appearance in Paris. None of us knew she was going to do this, okay? And there have been numbers reported as high as $1 million that it would have taken for her to travel there, stay there, have staff there, to do her hair and makeup, the clothes, which would have been gifted to her. They say that Balenciaga did indeed invite her. And as one guest on Maureen Callahan's show said, Meghan's clothes are this season, not last season. So that's how you know if she's actually been invited. They will send clothes from this season. But can we talk about the hideousness? Okay. So many people have already commented this, so I'm not going to be able to tell you anything new that you don't already know. But you guys, the suit, the worst. Why would you ever accept an invitation to Balenciaga, of all things? This is not a fashion house you want to be associated with, as we well know. In 2022, we know that Balenciaga got in some really, really hot water because they had little children posed with little teddy bears who have black eyes and bondage gear on, okay? Then they have ad campaigns. In the background, we have all this legislation having to do with child abuse cases. I mean, of all the things you could have laid out on the table, that's what you decide to do. And our whole ad campaign has little kids with beat up bondage gear bears. I mean, everyone crashed out on that in 2022. Everyone was angry, calling for celebrities to recant, get away from those people, all this. Weirdly, none of the celebrities would do it. I cannot think of one celebrity that said, whoa, that's wild, I'm out. So they must be paying big money over there. Although the rumor is that Balenciaga is quite cheap. But is it because they're spending all their money getting the celebrities to buy into whatever sick dream they're selling? Because these people are sick, sick, sick. And it is wild to me that Meghan and Harry have just staked their claim on this territory where they say, we care about kids, we care about protecting kids on the internet. But I'm going to associate myself with a brand that knowingly has put children in ad campaigns that seem abusive. In ad campaigns that have court cases spread out all over the desk having to do with the abuse of children. It's like, how is this a mastermind, I ask you? How is this person capable of keeping Joe's family silent about how they've raised her daughter low these many years? But she's not the sort of person that can think, hey, Balenciaga just is handing me a great big fat stack of cash, but I'm trying to make people believe I care about kids. I probably should hold out for another brand to make a deal with me. The thing is, no other brand's going to make a deal with her. Balenciaga is such a trashy brand. I mean, bring in more trash. Come on in, Meghan, you know. We'll dress you all in white so that you'll look like this clean breath of fresh air. But what is the deal with her inability to get clothes that fit her skinny frame, I ask you? Every single time we've seen her of late, she's wearing clown clothes. I think it's her soul wanting to really express itself. What are these clown clothes? Why are the pants so big? Look at the draping and the billowing. I mean, it's like, I know what she's going for. I know she's trying to look chic and timeless. And yet, why does she always look like a beanpole with a bed sheet on? Is she just not tall enough to pull this out? I don't know what this is. I think my real problem is I'm fatigued by it, okay? I want to see something different on her. I want to see a different shape, a different concept. She's always wearing all of these layers, all of these clothes. She's trying to make it so you can't critique her body because she's lost a massive amount of weight. And it's not good. It's not looking great. Okay, here's a picture of her at a heavier weight, okay? Much more rounded features. She was pregnant here, so we can't necessarily say that this is the way Meghan looks because it's is a very small part of her life. But we have seen Meghan look like this, okay? But then we also are watching Meghan look like this. Pregnancy face and regular face don't look this different. This is Ozempic face, okay? And Ozempic face is hard pressed to be beautiful. We're seeing so many celebrities who no longer look like themselves because they're getting on Ozempic, which is wild to me because none of these celebrities needed to lose weight in the first place. What twisted mental world are they living in where they think of all the people in the world, they need to be on Ozempic? I mean, here's Mandy Moore, okay? It's literally sucked the life out of her eyes. Okay, this is not plastic surgery. This is Ozempic. You can tell because she has hollowed out temples, hollowed out eyes. These are signs that somebody is undergoing starvation. Okay, these are signs that you would look for if you had somebody come in with an eating disorder. You're going to check their facial features for where they've lost muscle and fat. Temples, number one. Eyes, number two. What is going on with this face? Ozempic. You know, and Meghan has the Ozempic face. It's too much. It's too drawn and skinny and skeletal. It's not good. But apart from the fact that the clothes were just so billowy and out of control and just so much of the same. Whenever she wants to play the chic fashionista, this is the outfit she chooses. It's something along these lines. She has a costume for this character that she plays, and I need the character to wear a different costume for one day, okay? I need something different. She comes out looking so austere. I don't know what this face is. I don't understand why she thinks this character needs this face, because this character doesn't need this face, okay? We don't need you to come out with stony features and acting like you are above it. Almost annoyed that people are there taking her picture. Girl, we know that's why you came. You want your picture taken, right? She says she was just there to support her friend, Pio Paola, or whatever his name is. And Pio needs her, you know? Well, he didn't need this awkward kiss, I'll tell you that much right now. Okay, so stony-faced Meghan hustles on over and she gives us this awkward display. Why can't we figure out what is happening here? Okay, we can't figure out the clamps for the canning. We can't ask Balenciaga to send us something that doesn't look like a giant bedsheet. We can't figure out how to kiss this man on his cheeks. This is one of the most awkward things I've ever seen in my life. This makes me cringe and then cringe and then cringe and then cringe some more. We've all been in those situations where you accidentally hug somebody and like your faces get too close or whatever. And it's always like one of those things that you go to bed thinking about. And you're like, God dang, that was weird. I hated that. I hope they forget that happened. But here she has it not once, not twice, but like 3 times missing where her face ought to be. But this diabolical demon is the one that is going to silence everyone from her past. It's really hard for me to imagine that this person back in her past was so clever and manipulative that she was able to rearrange reality so that she could go off into the sunset and live what was on her vision board. Because as has been reported by Megyn Kelly, who knew Trevor, Meghan had a vision board with Harry in it, which is the weirdest thing I've ever imagined. Who would make a vision board with another man on it? And you're married to a different guy. Like, they must have had some kind of arrangement in their marriage, or this must have been at the tail end of their marriage. I don't know. But anyway, she had a vision board with Harry's picture on it. So obviously her goal was to get there at some point. And she did manage that. But I just have a really hard time imagining that she didn't do it in the clunkiest way possible. Because why would she leave all her skills in the past? All of her abilities to keep everyone's mouth shut and silent. Her ability to climb the ladder and do it without anybody knowing any of her real dirt. Because it's very hard to find stuff on Meghan's past life. How did she manage it then? But now we have her not even able to find out where someone's cheek is so they can give a double kiss. And how do we have somebody who is this colossally out of it, managing all the past stuff? Meghan was seen driving through Paris. She posts a video of her driving with her feet up past the tunnel where Diana died. Now, Paris, there's a lot of different ways to get a lot of different places. And it seems wild to me that her driver would have driven her past that specific location. She would have just happened to catch that specific location and choose to post that part of her filming into this montage video that she had created. The coincidence is too much for me to bear. So for me, I truly, initially when I heard the story, I'm like, okay, let's just calm down a minute. Because I had also heard that the video that she posted shows pictures of Paris about a mile away from the tunnel. Well, I mean, it's not like Paris is no Dallas. It's not like it's spread out as though it's been squashed by the foot of a giant. There's probably a pretty limited area where she would be going and would probably be in the same footprint as Princess Diana, because there are going to be certain locations that people in her echelon would go. So for her to get a part of Paris that is about a mile from where the accident happened, I thought, are we making a lot of this? You know, are we doing that thing we have a tendency to do with Meghan, where she does a thing and we race immediately to the worst conclusion? Oh, she did this to be smug. She did this to show off. She did this to be careless, and she did it intentionally. You know, she's basically giving us all the middle finger about how much we cared about Diana. She's going to whiz past alive and well with her feet up past the very place that Diana, died a brutal death. So there was a part of me that thought, are we trying to draw conclusions to something that didn't actually happen if she was a mile away from the location? But then I've heard other people say that the video depicts her driving right past the tunnel. So I'm not really sure at this point what is true. Was she a mile away from it? Was she right at the tunnel? I think we continue to ascribe to Meghan a lot of motivation that I actually don't think she has. I don't think her motive was to sully Diana's memory, because I don't think she even thinks about Diana enough to realize what she was doing. If she did realize that she was in Paris, the very city where her mother-in-law had died, she would have thought, what can I do to pay tribute to Diana since I'm going to be there and I will be in the vicinity of her death? She could have thought about laying a wreath or anything like that. But at the same time, she would have been condemned for that as well, because if she'd laid a wreath, people would have been like, look how she's trying to make it about Diana. She's trying to bring Diana up again. So she couldn't have won there. Yes, putting up her feet as she drives past the very location is wild, but I just don't believe that she was with it enough to realize where she was. I do not think that she has the ability to successfully execute any kind of statement. She cannot successfully execute her vision of herself as a lifestyle guru, okay? I do not think that she would be able to successfully orchestrate a sneer at you about Diana, because she can't successfully orchestrate anything. I think that she made a video that she thought showed, a fun trip where she gets to be royalty, where she gets to be truly treated as a duchess, where she gets to flaunt her stuff in Paris like all these other big celebrities. And I think that what we had was a person who made a video to brag to you about the life she has. And that was her goal. But I don't think it was to give a middle finger to the people who love Diana. I don't think that she is a deep enough thinker to be able to execute that. That's what I think. I think it was just one more time of her putting her hand to something and royally messing it up. Because this is a person who needs money desperately. This could have been a real open door for her. They obviously have money. Meghan is still receiving royalty checks from Suits. Harry wrote a book that did very well and also has money from his mother and from his grandmother. There is zero need for these people to constantly be grubbing for more. They have money. But the thing is, they don't have money at the level they want. They're constantly looking at the millionaires and the billionaires, and they're going to have to figure out some way to feather their nest. This could have been a giant opportunity for them. Meghan wants to jump into the clothing industry. She wants to get into the fashion. Okay, well, this would have been her opportunity, even though the person who had their hand out to her was Balenciaga of all fashion houses. That would be a no-go for me. But she's not going to say no to anything at this point. The Netflix is gone. The podcasts are gone. She's not willing to write a book. So how is she going to keep making money? As ever with all her watery jams, dry biscuits, her disgusting teas? No, that's not going to work. Fashion could have been the next step for them. But then she goes and she messes it up with the Diana video, driving past the place where Diana died. I do not believe that somebody who supposedly had the ability to orchestrate the silence of everyone in her past would step in it so colossally by destroying the one possibility that she had. I was astounded that Meghan was in a sphere that was, for once, not some weird little unknown child's benefit or some little party given by some nobody for their, hair products. Meghan is always showing up at these little events and it's like, yeah, well, that's about where you would be. These little charity events that nobody knows about and it's not a big thing. I was astounded to see Meghan at a real celebrity-filled event. Somewhere where real individuals that you know and have heard of are also present. This was a huge moment for her. And then she ruins it with her insensitive videos. I mean, I just don't believe she's the mastermind that people want to say she is. I think she would love to be the mastermind that you think she is. I think she flatters herself in thinking that she knows how to orchestrate it all, but she is desperately looking for cash wherever she can get it. And that desperation and that ham-handedness, that clunky inability to ever see a goal through, her continual insistence to you that she is this type A, super organized, super with it girly, but then she can't seem to do anything right with her brand and the way she is presenting herself or with this new avenue in the fashion. Completely shoots herself in the foot. This is not a mastermind. This is a fool. Imagine that we give her a pass on the Diana video. Imagine for a minute, we decide to say, okay, she was excited about where she was. She was filming in a location where, of course, Paris is not a gigantic city. The likelihood of her being within a mile of the place where Diana died is probable. Okay, so pretend that we decide we're not going to make a mountain out of a molehill on that one. Okay, pretend we just let that go. Are we supposed to let go of the fact that she is laughing at this model who fell down during the runway show? Here she is laughing at this person falling, then looking to the person beside her and realizing, oh, we don't do that here. We don't just mock people who are in a very embarrassing situation. And she quickly sorts her features. Okay, I don't know how to get past that. Because there's been some people like, maybe somebody just told a really funny joke next to her. How I've never laughed and then not laughed so quickly as Meghan does here. If somebody tells me a joke, I'm not like laughing, then suddenly noticing, looking around me and then not laughing. If somebody told me a joke, I'd laugh at it until I naturally stopped laughing. No, she was laughing at the model falling, saw that it was inappropriate, too late, and then tried to make up for it. We can't get past that. But again, sloppiness. The mastermind who has a character who goes through the world playing everyone like a pawn so that she can climb ahead would not go to a fashion show and laugh at a model who falls. Like the simple decorum necessary to sit in the front row of a show. The simple ability to assume that manners would tell you, I won't laugh if someone falls. She is so devoid of common decency that she laughs at someone falling. If she's over there playing a character, I think she would play the character who has common decency, who doesn't laugh at a show. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she's out there trying to grow this image of a person who is svelte and chic, elegant, always knows the right things to say, a lady. She wouldn't be lost giving somebody the 2 kisses on the cheek, and she wouldn't be laughing when somebody falls, and she wouldn't be walking around with the super insecure bitch face because she knows that she doesn't know what to do in the scenario. She looked so self-conscious, and it was coming across as major bitchy vibes. But it's because she was insecure, because she didn't know what she was doing. She didn't know how to play this character. She was in way over her head, and she didn't know how to do it, and it was obvious. But this is supposed to be the mastermind. This is supposed to be Meghan Markle, the most evil villain that you've ever heard of. She's not. She's not a mastermind. Is she evil because she doesn't care about anybody else? Yes. That seems obvious. But we need to stop ascribing so much weight to everything she does, because this is a person who doesn't know how to use a canning tool but wants you to think that she nerds out on canning day in and day out. Okay, she is a liar, but she's not a good liar. She is manipulative. She's not skilled at it. She is a narcissist, but she doesn't know how to hide that. This is not a mastermind. This is somebody who fell ass backwards into royal life because she met a dimwit who was looking for a strong person to tell him what to do. That's the story of Meghan and Harry. It's not the story of some CIA asset who's crawled up through life, being able to silence everybody along the way while she gets hers and destroys the royal family. If the royal family is destroyed, it's because they've made their own bed and now they have to lie in it. If you don't believe me, you would be shocked by how many times they knowingly covered up for Andrew and knowingly covered up for Sarah Ferguson, even when she was no longer in the royal family. The palace is over there shooting themselves in their feet, right? So if they fall apart, it's not because Meghan Markle joined in. She's only the latest iteration of crazy in that family and in the people associated with that family. I love William and I love Catherine, and I think that the two of them are going to do new and great things once they finally come to the helm. But I think the place is riddled with corruption. And I think that Meghan is hardly the tip of the spear, okay? That's all I'm saying. I will say, as long as we're talking about how crazy the royal family is, you guys, there's somebody online who is talking about wild things when it comes to the royal family. There's a woman who continues to crop up for me, and I don't know if it's just because I do consume a lot of royal content, so it may be that you've seen her also. But she claims to be some kind of like clairvoyant, right? And she says that she, as a child, was trafficked to the royal family, that everybody from the top down, from the most royal, was there at her degradation. But now she's out there saying that Prince Charles is dead and Catherine is dead and what you see are just clones. And I'm like, you guys, we've got to stop these people. This is insanity.
And people say, aren't you scared? Like you're releasing this information. A lot of them are dead. They're not here anymore. Obviously the Queen's not here. Jimmy Savile's not here. Charles died. Catherine is dead. The royal family is actually doesn't exist, just the illusion. Obviously there's clones around.
Do I believe that everything that we see is the truth? Hardly. Okay? Any story, like most of the history we know is not true. Even a lot of the places that we've been told are the places from history, not accurate, you know? So I'm not opposed to the idea that there are great wild things that have gone on behind the scenes that you don't know anything about, that I don't know anything about. And I'm not opposed to people saying, hey, here are the facts. We may need to reconstruct our image and our understanding of this historical event. But crazy lady, Catherine's still alive and so is Charles, okay? Imagine turning on the camera and telling the whole world that you witnessed the Queen enjoying a little cannibalism in her off time, and that the woman who you think is Catherine is actually dead. And oh, by the way, so is Nicole Kidman. She's also just a clone. It's like, what are you talking about? I do love a good conspiracy, but we have to dial back the crazy at some point. We have to. And this person over here, who is over there with her witchcraft, her wizardry, her seances, and her seeing into the future, and her, telling you what's going on behind closed doors. We need to steer clear from people like this. These people muddy the waters for those who are out there telling real truths that do challenge your existing knowledge of the world. And they make it hard for the people who are telling the truth when they come out with this outlandish garbage. Catherine's actually a clone. Well, could somebody clone me? Okay, because I'd like to get some damn sleep. Okay, I would love to have somebody out there doing all my work. Anyway, to continue. Meghan was hardly the weirdest thing happening at Fashion Week, okay? The fashion was whack, okay? It was disappointing to the extreme. I need to understand whose idea this was. Why are we wearing these outfits? We're making clothes for aliens now? I mean, God forbid we just live in the world of reality. Why are there 4 different sleeves on this pair of pants? What is this? Okay, this is ugly. Who is this for? I don't like the things that weren't overtly ridiculous. Like, what is this dress? You know what this looks like? This looks like somebody who's experiencing an apron belly situation. Somebody who has gained a colossal amount of weight, lost the weight, but not the amount of flesh, and now has a real skin problem. And now what are they supposed to do? You know, you can pull back the skin and hold back the skin in some areas, but unfortunately, the skin be swinging over here. This is the most hideous thing I've ever seen. I don't want to move through the world in an outfit that does this to me. You know? It was just painful how ugly the clothes were. And even the New York Times, they were even like, who are these clothes for? Because one of the big issues that we saw on some of these runways was fashion that men were wearing that was neither male nor feminine. It was like this weird in-between fashion. And even the New York Times was like, I don't know who's supposed to wear that. Yeah, me neither. Because it's when it's so bad that the New York Times is like, that's a bridge too far. We don't know what this is. It wasn't exciting fashion. It was just freaking weird. And I don't know what that is supposed to be. I don't know what man wants to wear that. And no woman wants to wear that. So what? What is that? It's a very niche market, I'll tell you that much. Meanwhile, we had this other magazine asking, is there any room left for fashion to be provocative? And we get these outfits. Again, who are these clothes for? Now, it may be that we've always asked ourselves when we look at fashion, and we've asked ourselves this for a while, what is runway fashion supposed to do? What is the point and purpose other than it being kind of like a modern day freak show? I don't know what I'm looking at, and I don't know when and why and how many years are going to have to pass for me to want to wear this. But it was just so weird. It didn't feel like there was any place to rest your eyes and be like, okay, I don't think I'm going to see that this year, but I could definitely imagine seeing that in a couple years. The alien pants. Who, when, where, why, and how? I don't want it. It's hideous. When can I get around to this? When would I want to? Schiaparelli Pirelli had a whole series of dresses recently that were beautiful. And I thought, okay. I mean, they were like real heavy on the hip situation, and I don't need any help there. But the form was beautiful. A lot of the dresses were interesting. They were feminine. The cuts were interesting. There was a lot going on that I loved. I didn't love everything, but you could find things you're like, okay, those are clothes. I don't know. This is like the trash heap of the apocalypse. What am I supposed to do with this? It's just a really disappointing week as far as fashion in Paris went. Speaking of fashion, can I just ask, what in the world was Sarah Jessica Parker doing showing up like a fallen angel at the New York City Ballet? What's her plan for sitting down and not enraging everyone behind her? Why is she wearing this? This is so costume. Is she in the ballet? Why is she wearing these wings? What is the point of this? Sarah Jessica Parker, I'm so over it with her. She is way too into the media idea of who she is. Nobody with their head screwed on right would show up to the ballet in this getup. Why doesn't she get a friend and they can come to the ballet in a horse costume? Let's talk about, just real briefly, Kim Kardashian. Okay, I don't know what's going on over there, but her mother and she are now indistinguishable. They look like the exact same person. You don't believe me? Here. Which one is Kim, I ask you? You would want to say the younger looking person, but no. Kim's the older looking woman in the short haircut. Why is Kim wearing her hair like her mother has worn her hair for years? This isn't a look, my friends. Kim does not need to go for the mom haircut. Okay? First of all, I've never known why the mom always wore her hair in such an unbecoming fashion. It just seems so dated to me. I'm like, this isn't 1993. Can we please do something with her hair? But she was always wearing that kooky haircut until only just recently. But now, as she begins to get a little bit longer hair or doing something a little different with her hair, now Crazy Kim's going for the mom haircut? Can't imagine what kind of world we're living in where it's like the mother and the daughter are starting to merge into each other in the middle. Like what? No era has this ever been the case. I could not believe, I stared and stared and stared at this picture. I was like, is this AI? What is happening here? But no, because when she got all that work done on her face, and we saw her a little while ago in Paris herself, I remember thinking that Chris was Kim. I thought Kim was dressing up like Chris. So they're just becoming the same person now. And Chris is long long been jealous of Kim because Kim was able to do what Kris never could do. Kim was who Kris had wanted to be. You know, I got into reading other things, so I put down the Kardashian book that I had been reading that I was going to give you guys a synopsis of. Kris is like 7 kinds of crazy. But one thing that was always really clear about her is how hungry she was, greedy for fame. More than anything, she would toss anyone to the side. If, she used them until she'd used them up, and then she climbed on their body to step up higher. And for Kim to have amassed so much fame, while Kris kind of had to play a background character, I'm sure irritated the hell out of her. But now she's trying to become her daughter. And I think that is creepier than the fact that her ex-husband is now her ex-wife. Now she's trying to become her kid. Like, I'm telling you, these people need to stop with the surgeries already. Okay? It's becoming a real house of horrors over there. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about, because we need to talk about this at some length, is the new Taylor Swift album. The Meltdowns, you guys. The horror show. Let me tell you something right now. When she announced that she had a new album coming out on her soon-to-be brother-in-law's podcast, I thought to myself, well, this is going to be some trash, because you're announcing it in such a weird way. On a football podcast with a couple of bros? I mean, what are you doing? It was just so not her market that I thought, we're not going to see what we've known from Taylor Swift. I knew it, and I should have said it when I thought it, because now it seems like I'm just like making things up. But I remember thinking, this is weird. I wonder what we're going to get from this. Now, there were a lot of people who thought, well, she's happy now. What we like from Taylor Swift are breakup songs. We like it when she's crying and upset, because we're crying and upset, and we can really, she sings our pain, she sings our sadness, she really sticks it to the guy who used and abused her low these many years, That's what we wanted. But, she's happy now. She wants to get married now. And according to her, she wants to have, a block full of kids that look just like her soon-to-be husband. So people were not thrilled when they heard the album. But one reason that people were dramatically disappointed, just straight out of the gate, even people who were willing to give the album a pass in a lot of other respects, was that the production value was way lower than they expected it to be, since she'd been bragging so much. She was going to reunite with producers who had made her very popular in the past. And when it was clear that their sound wasn't as prominent as we all expected it to be, folks were disappointed. Why? What's happening here? You promised us more of the hits from, say, off of your 1989 album, and then I'm getting this junk. A lot of the songs had recycled sounding tunes. None of it sounded original. It sounded like stuff from the Jackson 5 or even from the Jonas Brothers. It was not music that we thought was going to be as revolutionary as she suggested that it might be. So the tunes were a little worn out. The production value was a little bit lame. And then came the lyrics. Oh, the lyrics. Folks were crashing out over the lyrics. Now, of course, InStyle was like, she's getting fun. And everyone else was like, what the hell is this trash? People were listening to this and literally jaws dropping because the lyrics were filthy. And they were not indicative of the Taylor Swift that people have come to know. Taylor is not a sexy person. She's not sexy. I mean, she's never really been selling sex. Even when she wears skimpy clothes, it's hard to think of her as a sexy person. So even all of her album art was kind of shocking. I don't think we've seen this much thigh and belly and boobs from Taylor ever. So I think we should have anticipated that the album was going to be provocative because the art was provocative. The pictures were, from the perspective of critiquing art and just the colors and all the textures, the art for the album was a 10 out of 10 compared to the 4 out of 10 that the album was. It's like she put all of her effort into the art and into what she wanted the art to say about her and the image she wanted you to have of her as finally being the sexy person. And then she spent like 0 time working on the album. She really should have reversed that. Like maybe a little less on the pictures and a little more on the music we have to listen to. Okay, because people are going to have to be just sitting there like this, looking at the art in order to get anything out of all the work that you did on this album. But anyway, she came across in these songs as trying to be something that she isn't. She isn't considered a sexy person, and I don't think anybody has tuned into her because she is. She's likable. There's something girl next door-ish about her. There's something approachable about her. And now she's singing about her future husband's penis. That's gross. Don't do that. Don't give me lines like, your love is the thing that opened my thighs. Like, that's gross. Like, don't talk about opening your thighs. That's like a gross phrase. Opening your thighs to this man. I'm just like, gross. Like, if that's the way you guys want to talk, when the bedroom's doors closed and the blinds are closed, that's fine. You two do your thing. We know you are. But why are you letting me in on that? I don't want to know about that. She sings a song where basically she's saying everybody wants all this stuff. They want money for all these things, but that's not what I want. What I want is basically to live this suburban dream where, you have a basketball court in the driveway and you got a whole pack of kids running the neighborhood. And I just basically want it to be you and me. She mocks people who think of their dogs as their kids. I'm going to have some real babies with my man. And so there was a lot of people like, wait a second, what happened to the cat-loving woman who basically acted like she and her cats were all she needed and that she kind of shunned the idea of marriage? So then there was a whole political side of people feeling like she had, decided to be this far-right conservative, woman who wants to go churn her own butter and make her own sourdough and have a whole pack of kids and, basically is just going to stand by her man no matter what. I don't care what she decides to do. I think the conservatives made way too big a deal when she got married. I mean, how many conservative commentators did I see be like, well, finally, she's getting married. She's going to settle down and have some kids and be a good woman. And I just remember being like, she's getting married like so many hundreds of others. Just because she decides to do something traditional doesn't mean that she's officially going to be a trad wife or something. But some of her music does make it seem like she's leaning more that way, though at the same time, she's singing such lyrics as, I make all the deals with the devil because my dick is bigger. I don't know any trad wife you're going to find who's singing that. So it just seemed like no matter what you wanted to do, you could find a reason to be mad at this album. If you wanted to be like, oh, yay, she's on our side. She's hyper-conservative now, wants all those kids in a suburban house. Or you could be like, wow, she's wilding out with these lyrics talking about her big dick. And meanwhile, she's making a disgusting diss track to this other girl who has called her out for a variety of reasons. And so she spends an entire song dissing this other woman, basically being like, if you like me so much, you must want to marry me. And using such gross terms as, when you're coming at me like that, it makes me wet. It's like, who is this person? This is disgusting and gross. So to me, she took no side. She was doing her own thing on this album and none of it was good. Okay. And I just think that all the high drama around it is ridiculous. Now, I'll tell you one place I can get in on some of the anger, angst, and indignation. And it's that I don't know why she's trying to market this album the way she is. There's 4 different iterations of this album. Also a movie that came out on release day. You could go to the theaters and see this movie that accompanied it. It's just she keeps just wringing this project out for every drop, every dime, every penny that she can get. And I think it's tasteless because the album's bad. It's been panned by critics. Even hardcore Swifties who are trying to smile through their tears are like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be better than this. There's only 12 songs on it. It's just it's not what it could be. It's not what people had hoped that it would be. And then for her to keep shoving it in our faces with, here's another song with a couple of different notes in it, a couple of different words. It's look, you're going to need it. Is there a place I can get some 12 new songs? Is there a place I can go for a completely different album? Point me in that direction. You want to sell me that? But whatever this was, it was not it. And everyone was angry. She's come out to say that it doesn't matter because if you're talking about her or her album, she still wins. So what does she care? But if we're going to talk about clones, who cloned Taylor Swift? Okay, what's going on with her Rubbermaid face? It's like she had something done to her face recently because everything is just very tight and not moving. And, she's always had interesting eyes. Her eyebrows and her eyes have always been in a very specific to her character trait. So I'm not saying that she's had an eye lift, but it does feel like her eyes are like this. She is looking like this. And I don't know how she sees out of her eyes because they're pulled so tight that we're getting this weird wrinkle at the top. Then I'm like, what's happening here? There's just a lot of just, it's just and her skin's not moving, and it's rubber maskish. Anyway, she's not here for the critics, okay? So everyone can complain and whine, but she knows she's still raking in all the dollars. Everyone still bought the album. Everyone's still talking about her. She's still Queen Bee. So what does she care? She's going to get married. She's excited about that. And, you know, she's just not going to be able to make the music she used to make. She made breakup songs. People liked her because she was a hurt young girl, and there's lots of hurt young girls out there who like to put on the music, cry in their cars while they drove to work for another day. And this is a person who isn't at the place in her life where she wants to talk about how she's unhappy or how people have been mean to her, which is why she's reduced to writing catty diss tracks to general nobodies, you know. People don't want that weird catty diss track. They want songs where they've been hurt by a lover. And she's not hurt by a lover. So she's not going to write an album about that. She's in a happy place. Are her songs weird because she wants to talk about her sex life now? Yes. No one wants to hear it. Is she awkward as hell because she's not known for that and now she's trying to write sexy songs? That's Sabrina Carpenter's lane, you know. And a lot of the music, honestly, on this sounded like Sabrina Carpenter music. Sabrina Carpenter is even on this album. I was like, did you let Sabrina Carpenter do this for you? Because a lot of these, so many of the tunes, the lyrics, it didn't sound like Taylor. You know, what I'll say about Sabrina Carpenter is she can write a couple of bops, but her entire playlist sounds like something that she just made goofing off with her friends. Every single time I listen to anything she does, I mean, you know, catchy tunes for sure. She thinks she's extremely clever with her lyrics. Sometimes she is, sometimes she isn't. But everything sounds incomplete. There's a real incomplete sound to Sabrina. All of her songs sound like she could have kept going, but she's like, I'm tired of it. And she was like, oh, it's a wrap. And the general clunkiness of Sabrina Carpenter, I feel like, was very applicable to what Taylor was giving us. There was just a general clunkiness to it. It's like, is this it? Is this all I'm getting? That's my final word about Taylor Swift. You know, there's a lot of people who are like, you know, this is disappointing. Lyrically, she's always been a queen. Who has she become now? Can I remind you about a song that she wrote many, many years ago called Me? And these are the lyrics to Me. I know that I'm a handful, baby. I know I never think before I jump. And you're the kind of guy the ladies want. And there's a lot of cool chicks out there. I know that I went psycho on the phone. I never leave well enough alone, and trouble's gonna follow where I go. And there's a lot of cool chicks out there. But one of these things is not like the others, like a rainbow with all the colors. Baby doll, when it comes to a lover, I promise that you'll never find another like me. I know I tend to make it about me. I know you never get just what you see, but I'll never bore you, baby. There's a lot of lame guys out there. And when we had that fight out in the rain, and you ran after me and called my name, I never want to see you walk away. And there's a lot of lame guys out there. 'Cause one of these things is not like the others. Living in winter, I'm your summer. Baby doll, when it comes to a lover, I promise that you'll never find another like me. Hey kids, spelling is fun. Girl, there ain't no I in team, but you know there is a me. Strike the band up 1, 2, 3. I promise that you'll never find another like me. Girl, there ain't no I in team, but you know there is a me. And you can't spell awesome without me. I promise you'll never find another like me. So I just feel like I want to support those who feel that she has betrayed them. No, this is who she is. She just did it even worse this time. But she's happy now, so maybe you need to find somebody else to write your breakup songs. All right, that is it for me. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I loved talking, and we will see each other on Monday when we continue on with Entitled. See you then. Bye.